In 2016, I launched my first coaching business. 2 years later, I hit 6 figures. In this video, I'm about to show you exactly how I did that, step by step, so you can do it too. Let's dive in. So step number 1, the first thing that I did when I launched my coaching business was I figured out my niche. So in my case, I have a background in music. I studied recording in college, and coming out of school, my first real job was helping artists record and mix their own music. The next thing that I did, which is super important, I see a lot of coaches not do this, and it is a big mistake that holds so many people back from getting clients, is I found a group of people that had a clear problem or challenge that I could address and solve with my existing skills and experience. So in my case, I knew that there were lots of musicians out there that were recording their own music at home, and they were struggling to make that music sound like the music they heard on the radio. And they didn't have the skills, and they were missing the tools and the knowledge and the experience, and they needed help. And so I had this perfect combination between my skills and my background, my experience and expertise, and a group of people with a clear desire and a clear gap in their life. In other words, they were at point A and they wanted to be at point B. And this is probably one of the biggest keys to success when it comes to choosing a niche. What I learned is the right niche for you is the intersection between these two things. The intersection between your skills and your knowledge and your experience, as well as a group of people who want and need something. I see a lot of coaches out there who struggle to get clients because they're out there talking about things that they're passionate about, but they haven't taken the time yet to really get clear on who is that group of people that really have a problem or challenge or desire that I can address through those skills. And that's super important to your success. So what is that group of people? This is the first question that I asked myself, and it really set the foundation for everything that came next in my coaching business. So once I figured out who my niche was, the second step is I started creating content. I started showing up online and sharing. Initially, it was just writing blog posts or even social media posts where I just shared some tips or insights. And later on, I started a YouTube channel where I would record videos like this and share helpful tips and actually show people how to record things or mix things properly. And looking back over all the different things that I've done in my business, if there's one piece of advice I have to you, creating content, showing up consistently, positioning yourself online as an expert, and just sharing and giving consistently on an ongoing basis through creating lots of content completely changed my life. There have been so many opportunities that have come my way just as a result of putting myself out there. But at first, to be very honest, it was pretty humbling because I sucked at creating content when I first started coaching. Like, as an example, here's one of the first videos that I ever recorded on YouTube. Today, I want to talk about a problem that most home studio owners have probably experienced. So as you can see, a lot has changed since then, and I'm still learning and still growing. But what I committed to was just showing up, and for me, it was one YouTube video a week. Totally can make that happen. And over time, I just showed up consistently, day after day after day. And at first, nobody was paying attention. Nobody was watching these things. It was like 2 likes or 2 hearts or 2 views. And then over time, I started seeing that my audience grew, and more people were actually watching these videos. And I learned how to do these videos better and how to create content that was more valuable and useful and helpful for people. So I learned, number 1, how important that consistency really is, because you can screw up a lot. And certainly I did. Like in the early days, I messed up a lot. My first few videos were terrible. They weren't valuable. People didn't want them because they didn't actually help people. Yet I committed consistently to showing up over time and got better and better and better. And also what I really learned through this process was the value of showing up and actually creating things that were really helpful for free. One of the best ways to grow an audience and to get, eyeballs on you is just to share, to say, here's lessons and things that can genuinely help you and things that will make your life easier, just like I'm doing in this video. Hopefully, if you're still watching, you're like, wow, this is useful and helpful. And Jason's shared some things that are really valuable to me. So being able to do this in your business is one of the best ways to start growing an audience and just start attracting great people to you. So after starting to create some content for a while, I started to see a little bit of visibility and traction, and it certainly didn't happen overnight. It took me a couple months to start to see something happening. The next thing that I did was I really focused on capturing that audience. When I was in high school, I was a singer-songwriter, and I would go around my town and I would play music, and I had an audience of people that I had built up on MySpace, because that was like the big platform at the time. And I spent so much time developing that platform and adding new people and had built up this big audience. But then MySpace disappeared. And suddenly all those people were gone. And I realized because I had built my castle on somebody else's sand, that put me in a vulnerable position. And so it was far better to own my audience and to have a direct line of communication with them. In my case, that was email. So one of the first things that I did pretty early on in my business was, after starting this YouTube channel and starting to see some traction, I added an email list off the back of that YouTube channel. And in every video, I basically pitched a free guide or a free resource that people could download. And in order to download that free resource, they would click a link and they would put in their email address and they get the free resource sent directly to them. And as a result, they joined my email list. And so now I was able to build an email list. And the advantage to this for me was I had a direct line of communication to all these people who were watching my video. So rather than them just watching a YouTube video and then ghosting and me never being able to connect with them again, I had a way of, being able to continue that relationship and deepen that connection over time. Now, speaking of this, if you're watching this video, you're a coach and you want guidance and a roadmap that you can follow to get on track to start attracting 2, 3, 4 high-paying coaching clients month after month in your business, I put together a free client attraction guide that walks through some of my best advice in this area. It's, again, completely free. I'd love to share this with you. It's super valuable stuff. And you can get this for free right now by clicking the link above or in the description down below. And as a bonus, you'll also start to see kind of how this process works and how I do this in my business, how I actually grow my email list, so you can do this and apply this in your business too. So the biggest lesson that I learned in this process is don't build your castle on somebody else's sand. It's very important to have that direct line of communication with your audience. So regardless of what happens with whatever social media platform you might be showing up on, even if that goes away, you can still own that relationship with your people and communicate with them directly and build those relationships over time. So the first 6 months of my coaching business was pretty much focused almost exclusively on building that audience and growing that email subscriber base. And over time, I started to see those numbers grow. I really wasn't making pretty much any money. Like my first 6 months as a coach, I made $734. And I was trying things, but I wasn't really making any money. At that 6-month mark, kind of past that point, my audience started growing to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like there's something here. Like people are paying attention. Now I can start to monetize this audience and I can experiment with different offers. And I tried a couple different things. And again, that mixed critique offer, I don't think it did very well. One of the biggest things that shifted for me or changed for me was I realized that rather than me just kind of trying to come up with things that I thought people wanted in my audience, it was far easier and far better to just go to my audience and survey them and ask them, hey, what's your number one biggest challenge in this specific area when it comes to your mixing or making music? What are you struggling with? Asking my audience what they wanted and what those challenges were was like getting the answers to the test. And I started seeing that, when I would send out a survey, there were very clear patterns and very clear trends, things that, a lot of people said that they were struggling with. So my first big offer was actually a course that I put together. It's called Mixing Low End. And the reason I decided to do a course on that was because that was the thing that a lot of people said that they were struggling with. That was like one of the top things that was on my list. Like when I did this survey, it actually was pretty successful. So I think it made, over $10,000 the first time that I launched it. And it was just like an online course that I was selling for like $200. And this was the moment where I was like, oh my God, like this is working. Like I have all these strangers who are joining my email list and then spending hundreds of dollars to sign up to my offer. And it was such an exciting moment. Like when you start to see that traction and when you start to see that things are actually paying off. And it took almost a year to get to that place. I think I made a little bit over $5,000 my first year as a coach. There was not like crazy traction. Like there wasn't like instant success. And this is something I also want to normalize. If you're watching this and you're like, oh my God, I started showing up a couple months ago and things really haven't taken off yet. Of course, it's going to take some time. Most of the clients that I work with, the ones who create really quick success, usually it's because they have some unfair advantages coming into the process. Either they have an existing audience or, they have existing skills in marketing or sales. And so they move forward a bit more more quickly. But sometimes it can be easy to, see all the success stories. You get discouraged because you have this expectation that it's like, well, if I don't create success very quickly, something's wrong. But it took me quite a bit of time to start to see those results rolling in. So a couple big lessons I learned in this phase of the journey. Number one, probably the biggest one, is don't make guesses when it comes to building your offers. Instead, go to the people that you want to serve and ask them what they want. You don't have to guess. It makes it so much easier, and you're so much more likely to actually be able to sell something when you're tapping into those existing needs and those desires versus just kind of locking yourself in your office and saying, well, let me just come up with something that I think people want. This was a big mistake that I've made in the past many times before. And when I started figuring this out, it made launching offers and creating success a lot easier. And the second thing that I learned looking back on my journey, my first few years as a coach, I was launching these low ticket online courses. When I started selling high ticket programs as a coach, that was really when things started taking off for me. Programs I could sell for a couple $1,000s or more. And today I sell pretty much exclusively high ticket programs in my coaching business as a business coach. And I always tell coaches, if you're just getting started, it's so much easier to gain momentum and to start to see some serious traction when you're selling a high ticket offer. You need a lot fewer clients to actually start making real money versus me selling, $200 courses. I needed to sell a lot of those courses in order to actually, make enough money to really hit my income goals. So it's far easier to start things off with a high ticket, typically one-to-one offer. And you can always move into things like group coaching or things like online courses down the line when your audience is bigger. But in the early days, typically not the best place to start. This was definitely a mistake that I made and something I wish I would have learned earlier. And step number 5 is I rinsed and repeated a lot. This is where things get a little bit boring. And sometimes people have this idea that there's some magic bullet or some quick fix or something that's like the one thing that if you apply that thing and you do it in your business, you're going to hit 6 figures or whatever it is. The truth is, what I've learned is success as a coach is really about doing thousands of little things better and better every day. And so in this phase of my journey, really what I started doing was looking at every aspect of my business and how I was showing up in my videos and my emails and my sales pages and everything I was putting out in the world and asking myself, how can I do this a little bit better? Where are the weak spots? Where are the gaps in my knowledge and understanding? I started reading books on marketing and sales and business and really immersing myself and learning the skills that I needed to develop in order to communicate more effectively. I joined Toastmasters and I became the president of my local Toastmasters. And so I was showing up in this community and learning how to be a better public speaker, which really helped when it came to showing up on videos like this. So I started looking at all these different things that I was doing and figuring out how can I do that just 1% better day after day after day. And over time, the compounding effect of that really started to pay off. So I mentioned my first year in business, I made a little over $5,000. By year 2, I made $76,000. And then year 3, $125,000. So year after year, I started getting better and better and better. Full disclosure, by the way, some of that income in there was from freelance mixing and some other projects I was doing. I was trying to figure out how to separate that out to give you more accurate numbers. Unfortunately, I couldn't, but most of that income was really from my coaching business and from selling these courses and just the coaching that I was doing online. So the biggest lessons that I learned at this stage of the process was, number 1, success is boring. It's not about the flashy thing. It's not about one hack or one tip. It's about all these thousands of tiny little things that you do better and better and better. And I really learned the value of investing in developing my skills in marketing and sales specifically. Those 2 areas are really such force multipliers in your business. Those 2 things, as I really started to pour into them and start to understand them on a deeper level, that's when things really started to take off for me in my business. And the second thing is just that mindset of incremental improvement, taking a good look at what you're doing on a regular basis and asking yourself, how can you do this better? That mindset for me really made a big difference when I started focusing on just doing something a little bit better every single day. And I was amazed, looking back after a couple of years of that journey, where I ended up. Now, if you're a coach who wants a roadmap that you can follow to help you get on track to signing 2, 3, 4 or more high-paying coaching clients month after month in your business, I put together that free client attraction guide that walks through so much of my best advice. I definitely recommend checking this out. It's completely free. And you can click the link above or in the description down below to go download that right now. And if you like this video, you're definitely gonna love that one too. So click the link on the screen to go check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.